All right, let's get into it. For most of us, the word psychedelic comes with a lot of baggage, right? But today, we're going to push all that aside and look at the actual rigorous science behind their therapeutic use. We're talking about how these substances are being seriously studied to treat some of our toughest mental health challenges. But let's start with a really big question because it gets to the very heart of what this is all about. Could a single experience, just one, fundamentally reshape who you are? And I'm not just talking about feeling different for a couple of hours. I'm talking about lasting, deep changes to your actual sense of self. So what even is a psychedelic? Chemically, it's a bit tricky since the term covers a few different types of molecules. But for our purposes, the definition that really matters is this. It's a substance that can profoundly alter your sense of reality. And this is the key part, your sense of self, at least for a little while. Now, how do they do that? Well, think of your brain as this incredible prediction machine. It's constantly building these little models of the world. Models for everything from, gravity makes things fall, to much deeper stuff like, I am a person who always gets anxious. Psychedelics seem to temporarily dissolve those rigid models. And that's a huge deal, because it's those exact models that can keep people stuck. So when we use this word psychedelics, what are we really talking about? To get a good handle on it, we need to break them down into the different chemical families that all fall under this one big umbrella. First up, you've got the ones you've probably heard of, the classic psychedelics. This is where you find psilocybin, which comes from hundreds of different mushroom species. You've got LSD, which is synthetic, DMT, which is found in tons of plants, and mescaline, from cacti like peyote. Now, what ties all of these together is that they all work on one specific target in your brain, the serotonin 2A receptor. And even within that classic group, there's some variety. They're basically built on two main chemical blueprints. You have the tryptamines, like psilocybin and DMT, which, by the way, look a lot like serotonin itself. And then you have the phenylethylamines, like mescaline. It just shows you how a few different molecular keys can unlock the exact same really profound door in our minds. Okay, so how does this actually play out in a therapeutic setting? Because this is so different from casual use. Let's look at the incredibly careful preparation that goes into a clinical trial. The whole thing is built on a foundation of safety and trust. And the process is, well, it's intense. First, there's major psychiatric screening. They have to rule out conditions like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, because for those folks, these substances are a serious risk. Then, a full medical screening, checking things like heart health. After that, and this is so important, patients spend hours just getting to know their guides, building trust. And finally, they're prepared for everything they might experience, from the most beautiful, awe-inspiring moments to the most terrifying. So now we're moving into the experience itself. If there's one single instruction that patients are given, one piece of advice that is the absolute center of the whole journey, it's just two simple words: let go. One of the craziest things that happens in the brain is a process called dishabituation. Basically, that part of your brain that acts like a filter, the part that makes familiar things feel, well, familiar, it just quiets down. And when that filter drops, you can experience the world as if it's the very first time. This is why you hear stories of people just staring at their own hand, completely mesmerized, as if it's the most miraculous thing they've ever seen. And this is where it gets really paradoxical. In these clinical trials, about a third of people report having what you might call a bad trip at some point, moments of real fear or anxiety. But what's wild is that those same people in the very same session will often say they also had one of the most beautiful, meaningful experiences of their entire lives. And that's why that core instruction is so critical. It all comes down to how you react when your reality starts to feel like it's dissolving. What the research shows is pretty clear. Trying to fight it, trying to hang on to control, that's what can turn a challenging moment into a truly terrifying one. The way forward is always to surrender. So, how does all of this lead to the ultimate goal? Because we're not just talking about a memorable day, we're talking about a lasting change in how you see yourself and how you fit into the world. The main therapeutic goal here is a lasting change in what scientists call your self-representation. The best way to think about it is like the operating system of your mind. It's the core story your brain tells about you, your personality, your habits, all of it. The idea is to give that system a reboot, to make it way more flexible and a lot less rigid. This quote, wow, it's from a participant in a smoking cessation study, and it just captures the whole thing perfectly. After trying and failing to quit his entire life, he has this moment during his session and just says, my God, it's like I can really just decide. He suddenly felt this sense of agency, this power that he'd never been able to access before. Researchers actually have a great name for this. They call them duh experiences. And they're these profound, totally identity-shifting insights that in that moment feel completely and utterly obvious. It's when things you kind of knew in your head, like, I can choose to not smoke, or I am a good person, are suddenly felt with the force of absolute truth. Of course, with all this amazing potential, we have to talk about the reality of the risks. And we also got to address some of the hype that's out there. So let's get grounded for a minute. Okay, there are two main dangers to be really clear about. The first one, as we mentioned, is psychological destabilization for people who have or are at risk for psychotic disorders. This is exactly why that screening is so strict. The second and much more common risk is the bad trip. Even in a totally safe and controlled setting, intense fear can pop up, and you need expert guides to help you navigate that. Now, what about microdosing? You hear the claims all the time, right? Better focus, better mood, more creativity. But what does the actual peer-reviewed science say right now? Well, so far, studies haven't found any real benefit. In fact, some even show a little bit of cognitive impairment. The jury's still out, but a lot of researchers think the benefits people feel might just be a powerful placebo effect. You expect a good outcome, so you get one. So where's all of this going? What's next? Well, the most exciting research is really focusing on these high-dose sessions and their potential to move beyond mental health and into the incredible world of physical brain repair. The data on long-term effectiveness is honestly just stunning. This chart shows you how long the positive effects can last. For things like severe depression, we're seeing just 1 or 2 sessions lead to huge improvements that last for months. And for addiction, people are staying abstinent for over a year. These effects aren't just temporary. For a lot of people, they really, really stick. And this is the truly mind-blowing frontier. Early research on animals shows these compounds can actually promote neuroplasticity. They help the brain literally grow new connections. So now, scientists are starting to ask, could these substances actually help repair the brain after something like a stroke? Or for athletes with repetitive head injuries? It's still early, but the potential is just enormous. And that brings us all the way back to where we started. Most of us go through life thinking our identity, our sense of self, is this fixed, permanent thing. But this research forces us to ask this incredibly deep question. What does it really mean if the most fundamental story we have, the story of me, can actually be reshaped?